Quiet I bear within me, I bear within myself, forces to make me strong. Now I will be imbued with their glowing warmth. Now I will fill myself with my own will's resolve, and I will feel the quiet pouring through all my being. When by my steadfast striving, I become strong, to find within myself the source of strength, the strength of inner calm. Now let's all take a nice full breath. As we breathe in, we could envision a golden light moving through us, sending relaxation and calm. And as we exhale, we imagine that any kind of blocks or stress are released and dissolve. Another nice full breath. Finding our center, feeling ourselves arrive fully. And as we exhale, we'll begin to open our eyes. And I am going to unmute so people can talk when they'd like. So when you're not speaking, as usual, I just ask you to mute your mic if you have sound going on in the background. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had a good weekend, and I hope that everybody is using the methods that we've been working with. And if you haven't been with us, that you'll find some methods that you can work with to find that center and calm in these trying times. And last week we had a really full week of working with all kinds of methods and ways of getting ourselves out of that, what we call the old brain, the amygdala, and allowing ourselves to find center, courage, and a spaciousness in this time that's so needed. In our parenting work, we last left off on Friday. I'll give a little bit of a recap, and then I'd like to hear back from everybody. We were working on filtering out the adult world and what it means today when we're filtering out the adult world, when we're living in such close quarters with our children of various ages, and what it means to start to notice how much we listen to the news and how it's affecting us and how it starts to weigh us down. And a very important piece of our work was also looking at these questions that Kim presents in his work in Simplicity Parenting. The questions are, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And with this development of the virus, Kim had added in, is it bringing security? Does it bring security? So the question to ask ourselves is, when I react a certain way, or when I share certain information, or when I talk about things in front of my children, or even feel myself spinning, is it bringing security? To ask ourselves the questions so that we could be more conscious and choose what we bring forth to our children. And this really does apply for children of all ages. I'll say that I do have a friend who has the virus, and there has been some slippery slopes with this, of course, and some intensity. And I really had to work, knowing that my children are older. When I realized I was about to start saying something in front of them, I thought, they don't really need to hear this. Even at this age, they have a lot coming at them. They hear, they talk to their friends, but to work with holding these boundaries and to really pause. I asked myself, would this bring security? No, it would bring fear. It would put both of them into the amygdala. I myself was working with it, right? So I'm learning a lot too, as usual, with the work that we're doing. I'm going to open it up to you and hope you'll be able to share any experiences that you've had thus far, whether it's a struggle or a success. We are here and open to all. So I turn it over to you, dear parents. Speaking about our review from last week, I am talking about that part of filtering out the adult world, but of course we also covered scheduling and environment work, which is going to carry over into our work each time we meet. So does anybody have anything to report?
I can talk. This is Shahada. So my son, I joined early last week, and then I haven't been on, so returning today. And my son is in Mrs. Helwig's mixed age kindergarten, and I am actually 3 weeks postpartum, so we have a new baby, and it's been quite a challenge, just trying to find that balance between having a newborn and having a 5-year-old who's very intuitive and, you know, it's kind of like picks up on everything, even facial expressions and all those things. So we were really engrossed in the news at first. We were like, it was on our channels like all day and really concerned. And now we've moved to not watching the news, only when he's asleep and just for a short amount of time, just because of the anxiety. And that's helped a lot. I think the hard part is like family who kind of like call and can be hysterical and that kind of thing, and kind of filtering them out so that we can remain grounded, which is something that we're like currently working on. But we're trying to find our way. And I think this makes things a lot easier because we can't control everything that we're seeing, and it's overwhelming. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing that. Last time we met on Friday, I'll just repeat this since you were here. It's always good for us to hear these things over and over. Repetition is really healing, not only for the children, but Kim John Payne had brought this very strong piece into his new work that he had issued for parents. And he said, you know, it is a time to start to realize that family members sometimes have a hard time holding back. And often with the intensity that's going on, there's been a higher sensitivity. So a lot of family members will get it when you say, whoa, 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 that's too much, you know, for the child. And based on these difficult times, people who normally wouldn't have gotten it or been protective of the children are. But then, of course, we have those who are so deeply in fear that they're having a hard time controlling it still. And they can't help themselves because it's just coming out of them. The fear is coming out of them. And we can't blame these folks. We have to find the compassionate heart with, you know, understanding that everybody is dealing with this in a different way. And the key is remembering compassion and boundaries. So now I'm getting to what Kim John Payne really said. He said, avoid them.
Yeah, I actually listened to that piece, and it was very, very helpful.
Yes. Oh, good. Good. Yeah, because he was really straight up about it, you know. And I say he might have even woven this in somehow, but I just highlight avoid them with compassion, meaning, you know, like you had mentioned, maybe those conversations, if you could handle it, and they need to sort through things when the children are sleeping, to have those conversations, as you mentioned, after the children go to sleep, but to also be mindful of yourself, because it's just like listening to the news. If we're allowing ourselves to be bombarded, we're weakening ourselves. So it's like letting something gnaw at us, and make us come apart, unravel, because we're being gnawed at all the time. So we could even find kind-hearted ways to speak to our relatives and say, I really hear you. I hear the fear, and I know that this is scary. I keep saying to myself over and over again, we're going to be okay. If a person has a faith that they follow, or if they don't have a faith, you can offer a saying, an affirmation, I'm going to be okay. Whenever you feel that happen, mom or grandma, just keep saying we're going to be okay, and see this big picture, and look into the future. So we ourselves then turn something. We go from being, in a way, a victim, right, of being gnawed at and having all of the fear from somebody else, oopsie, come at us, and we in turn turn it, and we give them a tool, and in turn we are repeating it for ourselves, right? And it's strengthening ourselves and resetting our center. So I highly recommend that, of course, we can't turn our backs on our nearest and dearest if they're in a space of fear, but we do have to be strong to hold boundaries with compassion. And that the compassion doesn't mean letting a person dump all of their fear on you for hours. The compassion means, listen, I hear your fear. Let's work with this in this way. I'm going to leave you with this, mom. I have 2 minutes to talk. I'm using the poor moms as the example. It could be anybody. It could be a friend, a sister, a brother, whoever it may be that's coming your way. But you could give them that seed of confidence, that seed of a prayer that they can leave with. And in turn, we have repeated it for ourselves and feel all the more strong. So,
thank you.
Welcome. Anything else? Anybody else have a comment to share? Expansion on that?
I'll share. Good morning.
Right.
Hi. I have to say that I really miss although the weekend was nice to have a break, I really enjoy having this 10 o'clock kind of landmark for myself. It really is very helpful when I think of the schedule. Like, I'm so good at planning everything for the kids, but for myself, I'm not as good at this week, I find. So having this 10 o'clock Monday to Friday really helps get me centered, to have a time where I unplug and just reflect and, take the time for the inner life of myself, which is really, really important in this, to really take that time to pay attention to what's happening within us, because there's so much happening outside of me that I find I'm just being pulled in so many directions, mentally, emotionally, physically. It's just that I've just never felt so busy in my own house. And it's very overwhelming for me. Because usually the home is a place of like respite, and the outside world is so busy and crazy. And but the home, there's so much that's been brought into our home with school and, news and family and communication, that this place of peace and solitude has felt like it's really hard to balance the schedule. It just feels very busy, even on the weekend. So I appreciate this time and things that kind of help me to slow down a little bit. So thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you. I think that this is true for everybody, I bet. I know it's true for myself. This is a different time. It's a impermanent, it's temporary, but it's different. And we're experiencing this. Whoa, my place of peace has become the workplace, the school, the play place, the creative place. It's become everything. One thing that helped me that I didn't realize last week when we were talking about, I guess it was our first day when we were talking about rhythm. I have a big calendar, and we wrote everybody's schedules out, the children's schedules with their classes and meal times and things like that. I realized that that calendar got so full so fast, even though it's a very big calendar, large in size, I mean. You know, all those slots got filled in so quickly that I realized I needed a separate mom calendar and mom and dad calendar, apart from all of the work events and school events that we have to do on our Zoom sessions. And we really needed to relook in order to ground real space and time for ourselves as adults. And I know it varies for people on how to do this, depending on the ages of the children. When we have little ones, it looks different. When we have older ones, we might be able to actually get an hour in a room by ourselves. But it's very important to set that separate calendar. For the parents who have little ones, I say, if it's possible, to try to tag team with your partner, or whoever's living in the home. Maybe that if you have help with the children, whether it's a partner or a grandparent, some families have extended family living with them, that, or even older siblings might be able to help. But to make sure that you stay with this commitment to keep some space for yourselves, to make sure that you are giving yourself pockets of time to just be. And I say just be. It could be that you want to sit and read. It could be that you want to sit and meditate. It could be you want to move. It could be that you want to do yoga or workout, or whatever it is that calls you, or art, something that feeds your heart and soul. Very, very, very important. It's a key, and to build it into the rhythm so that you get this pocket for yourself, at least for a couple of minutes. So it doesn't have to be an hour, it doesn't have to be 2 hours, at least for a couple of minutes every morning, afternoon, and evening. Very important to keep healthy in that way. And we could also tie this in to our environment work that we've worked on. If you have a place, because our homes have become everything, right? If you have a place that you could make your space, even if it's your bedroom and you get to shut the door and you use that as your sacred space. If you have a small home, you might have to work creatively to make a section of a room your sacred space as best you can. But to try to have a place where you know that if you shut the door or if you sit in this part of the room, you're going to experience some sort of feeling of peace that could come to you. So thank you for bringing that. It's going to be something that we have to remind ourselves over and over again throughout this time in order to
thank you, Stephanie. You know, I noticed that I'm very good at, I have a morning practice where I get time alone every morning, and I do my yoga and I do that. But as you were saying that, the afternoon and the evening, I think what I need to do is plug in afternoon and evening. I feel, you know, as the day goes on, things kind of unravel and get ungrounded. So that's a good idea. I'm gonna put something in for the afternoon and the evening as well. Thank you.
Sounds great. You know, it is a lot like a lot of parents that have been reaching out, aside from being with us in the group, are saying this is, you know, even the parents that have older children, it feels like we've gone back in time to when we had little ones, and we really need to make boundaries and to remember that that just like when we had little ones, and Shahada understands this very, very well from having the little ones, toward the end of the day, we really get tired because we've been holding something, right? We're holding the energy for the family all day long. So it is important to find those pockets, let's call them pockets of breath, where we can really take a breath, recenter, regroup. Even if you go by yourself for a walk around the block, if you don't have the space in your home, I know today was kind of interesting when I went for the walk with our dogs, and my husband and I were looking around saying, I can't believe it's snowing. And then we said, no, I can believe it, because we can believe anything at this point. But just bundle up no matter what's going on out there, and take a walk, even if you don't have a dog to walk. Just it's very refreshing. So around 4 o'clock, when you're feeling like the walls are closing in on you, you look outside and you see some sleet. It's okay. Put on a nice warm coat and some boots and take a walk, and come back, and you have your reset. So that's just another idea. It doesn't have to be something in the home. Sometimes, because we're feeling the walls are kind of feeling like they've closed in a little bit, it's really healthy to just get out for a few minutes. So I'll pause. I see Mara had her hand up. So
I
Hi.
did. You know, the work that we did last week was so incredibly helpful for us in this household. The environment piece of it was tremendous for us. But the calendaring, when you were just talking about your calendar, your own family calendar, that was the thing that I had struggled with right away, was putting up both the school schedule and then my own schedule and my husband's. And I started to feel overwhelmed as soon as I tried to do that in one place. We ended up using a whiteboard and just putting up the school schedule, and knowing that it was going to change probably, and not wanting to get out my, washi tape and pretty markers and everything for the first round. I decided to, let's just use the whiteboard and organize it. And then we can stay flexible. We can have the structure, but still keep the flexibility of being able to erase something and move it around if needed. And then along the bottom of the schedule was where I just put basically our blockout hours. If my husband had a meeting, then I just, put dad and wrote his time that he couldn't be interrupted, so that at least when we looked at it, we knew when we were each unavailable, regardless of what it actually was. And that was really helpful. And I blocked out this hour for me all the way across the board at the bottom. So it was very clear to see, when mom wasn't available. And that was super helpful. I mean, a 12-and-a-half-year-old who can read the schedule. So it worked really well for us. And then the other piece was, having it up for a week. By the end of the week, and after talking to so many of his colleagues and friends, my husband actually turned to me and said, thank you for being so strict about this and really forcing us all on a schedule. And, this morning I walked into my room and waved to him, and he said, no, I know, it's on the board. So it's that I see the little sign behind Shawnee that says clear is kind. And that's what I was thinking, listening to all of this, is that this, just making it so clear is just a kindness to all of us in the household.
yes, that is the truth. Clear is kind. I like that sign too. And everything that you shared is so so wonderful to hear about that. I want to say the acknowledgement, from your husband, to even notice after a week that, wow, this really did help us. It was a saving grace, because I think in the typical whirlwind of life, we didn't realize, we've talked about these things so many times, scheduling and making sure that we have rhythm, but we never realized how deeply important it is. And now spouses are noticing it, children are noticing it, the older children will express it as well. I know I can feel it's real. I can feel the appreciation come from my children, even if it's not expressed. You can feel that they have something to count on that they know that every day at 4 o'clock they go outside and throw or kick a ball with us. We go outside and we stay in safe space right on we have a dead end block, and my daughter and I might ride the bike up and down or take out a skateboard, or my husband might kick a soccer ball with my son, but it's like movement time. And even if you have a child who's like a resist child at first, which I certainly experience, it's just, no, this is what we're doing. Come on. And we get out there and you can feel the appreciation, especially afterward, but it has become deep, sticking to any kind of rhythm and schedule that we set has become quite a lifeline. And I've heard back from many parents who have said after taking this up, they realized how wide everything was and out of control. And this key of really sticking to a family rhythm has saved the day, and it will continue. So thank you for bringing that very important piece. So is there anything else that you'd like to add along this topic? Mara.
Just the other piece for us that I think has been so key too was this idea that you brought up last week of ensouling space. And for us, we moved 3 years ago, and there have been some untended to parts of the house that we just let pile up. But taking that space, I took over a little like closet bedroom, a little, under the stairs, kind of Harry Potter closet space. And once I did that and brought in some plants and made it my own little cozy nook where I am right now to do this, I noticed that both, David has walked in and looked at the space and said, wow, your office is much more inviting than my office. We have very different ideas. And for the last 3 days, he has been cleaning out and reconfiguring his space now too. And it's been really, and it has spilled out into the hallway. I'm stepping over it all, but it was like a chain reaction to see one person take the initiative, and then, he's doing it in his own way, but you can see how it's changed how he feels about going into that room, and watching how Felix has now taken, his instruments up to his bedroom, and he's paying more attention to his plants and things like that. So it's that idea of infusing whatever little spaces we have with some kind of, heart life has been really also very key for us.
Oh, yes, that is so beautiful. I'm thinking about how we talked about ensouling the environment, and when we look around, we realize, there's always a little something I can do that can turn things. So sometimes we think they have to be these big deal things. Sometimes it's just setting up a space to say, oh, this is where my instruments are going, that all of a sudden feels fresh and new. I think that's where I'm going with this. As difficult a time as we're in, and as much as there's this collective living in the amygdala, living in the fear, seems like there's this collective happening, right? Because this is what we're dealing with. When we turn and realize, my goodness, I could just change something in my environment, move a chair or a picture to put in an inspirational place, or straighten up a room. Something happens inside of us. We get out of our fear head, and we say, wow, this feels really good. And I think that I'm seeing this connection between a positive of what's happening in the world, because there's a freshness, there's a newness. There is something that all humanity has never experienced before, and we are all experiencing this together. So that freshness and newness is an inspiration, because it makes us think out of the box, right? It makes us think, what is it that I can do to bring peace? What is it that I can do to turn my mind from fear to trust? So there's a freshness. Then we turn to our home, and we realize, a lot of these little spaces have become pretty stale. And when we make the space have a freshness or a newness, there's almost this feeling of, maybe it's a little spark or a pocket of awe. Wow, that artwork is really beautiful there, or that rainbow in the window looks magnificent, or gee, the instruments in your room feel really good, don't they? Because you weren't paying as much attention when they were all in that same place. It's like they're breathing now. So environment is really teaching us deeply. And I know when things feel so out of control, it is nice to be able to do something physically and see a change right before our eyes. Very important. Shani.
Yeah, I just had to share something kind of silly, but made me so happy yesterday. For such joy. I love having my kitchen very clean. It's like one of the things in life that brings me a lot of joy is a clean kitchen. And I've always struggled with getting streaks on my countertop with the cleaner I use. And now that I'm home so much more, I was like, well, how can I avoid that? And I started thinking and looking through the closet with all the cleaners, and I just tried a few different things, and I finally found the right thing. I felt it was like a little gift of something that brought me so much joy. Like you said, it was such a little thing, and now I just keep using it, and I'm like, whoa, look at that, it's so clean. And I feel like my kitchen is the one place that I am the domain of the kitchen, and everybody shares it with me. But it feels really good to be able to make it look pretty the way I've always hoped, but never really took the time, or it's just kind of like you said, you let things go. But this has been an opportunity to make those changes, and I also feel like it gives me in this right now. I'm feeling like there's so many things I have so little control over. Being able to change something and control it in a positive way and bring myself joy, do something for myself that makes me feel good. Any opportunity for that is a gift. It's a blessing right now. So the environment, it's really important right now. You're right. It's a big piece for us.
Big one. Big one. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Yeah.
Big thing inside. When we could get that spark of joy, and that I use that term, it turns our mind, right? So it takes us from a fear place to oh, we when we look at a little baby, Shahada, a newborn, and look at you, you get to look at this little baby and go, oh, this is wonderful. What a gift. What a gift. Instead of being in this mind of, oh my goodness, what is coming? So I recommend everybody keep digging like this to find these little sparks of joy that come and just change everything inside. So thank you for sharing. This has been so beautiful. And I think our Simplicity Parenting work, it also brings a freshness, because though topics and we might have the titles of what's today's talk about, it always brings us into a freshness and a newness. It could be that same picture that you've hung on your wall 10 years ago, but when you move it around, it feels very different, right? So we could have topics that we talk about all the time, but when we keep moving it around to work with us in the here and now, because the here and now is always different, it could really transform things. So today I wanted to continue our work with our parenting styles, which is something that we're going to do ongoing work with, and thinking about these two questions. So question number one, when things are going well, I'm ... So just think about that. When things are going well, I'm ... So you could use an emotion to fill in the blank. You could use our parenting realms that we've talked about. And Shahada, I'm not sure if you've ever reviewed this with us, but the authoritative parent is high in warmth and high in expectation. I like to say it's sort of like a goal for parents to be able to be in an authoritative place with the children. So it means that you're very much a parent. You're not a buddy and a best chum, but you're a parent, and you can parent with firmness and with discipline, but you always have that warmth of heart. So it's not working out of creating fear in the child. It's working from a place of sureness and clarity in parenting. So when things are going well, I'm ... It could be authoritative. Of course, the other parenting realms are authoritarian, which is low in warmth and high in expectation. So that's when we get in that space of saying to the children, it's my way or the highway. You do it because I said so. And it's with I've used the example with our parents for many years now. It's like the shooting of the arrow as opposed to the angel's wing wrapped around the child, right? So when we go into the authoritarian parenting, there's sometimes a sharpness. That's what we usually can tell. Whoop, I went into that space. I was really sharp with that child. And I didn't have that warmth and that center. And then there's the permissive parent who is just, oh, do whatever you want. It's okay. Okay, have another cookie, or okay, so don't go on your Zoom today. It's okay, just skip it. And, I mean, sometimes, of course, things will happen, but for the most part, if we get to be in a permissive space too much, the children really start to hook into that and see that they are in the driver's seat. And we always, as parents, as tired as we are or could be, always have to remember, and it's a good visualization to picture yourselves in the driver's seat so that the child feels secure. A child that doesn't have a driver's license, which is most of the young children, they don't know how to drive a car. And if we handed over the keys, it would be scary. So we have to picture ourselves in the driver's seat. And then, of course, there's the last category, which is the neglectful parent, which is the parent is just completely fried and it's just do whatever you want. So there's some anger there. There's a low in warmth and low in expectations. So it's just giving up. So we ask ourselves, when things are going well, so you might have one of those parenting realms come up for you, or you might have an emotion. So think about that for a moment. I'm sure you already have had something come up for you. And then when things are difficult, where do you see yourself? So sometimes, dear parents, even when we have tendencies to have the strength to be able to be in an authoritative space in parenting, when things get difficult or intense and we feel the walls are closing in, some of the parents have shared, even before, of course, this extreme circumstance, right? Many parents have shared that 5 o'clock bewitching hour is the time where everything starts to feel like the walls are closing in. So when you have these experiences and things begin to feel difficult, do you find yourself shifting into quite a different emotional space? Do you see yourself shifting out of the parenting realm that you, for the highest percentage, usually find yourself in? Do you shift into another one that feels like it's bringing some more intensity, or maybe even a negative result? Or do you find that you've been working with this practice so much that you're starting to see that even when things are difficult, you're leaning into that authoritative space more and more? I'd love to hear back and hear your thoughts. Shani.
Yeah, I was this is, I feel like we've just finished 2 weeks, right? I'm losing track of the days, but yeah, we just finished 2 weeks. So yeah, the past 2 weeks, I have to honestly say I was very impressed how James and I both became, authoritative, and we just stepped in, we just stepped into what needed to be done. But I feel this weekend, I feel like it's getting harder to maintain. I feel like it's, as we, like how like the horse gets out of the gate, and you kind of like I put a little bit too much in the beginning of the race, and I feel like I need to slow down a little bit and pace myself, because the beginning, James and I have to say but we are known for that. We are, when crisis hits, I'm usually pretty good at stepping up to the plate in the moment and doing what needs to be done. But it's this more, now that we're kind of settling into it, it feels a little bit more like, how am I going to maintain being centered with them, and, being calm, and, I feel myself maybe pulling to be permissive at times, like, all right, you don't have to do it, or, and then feeling like like getting frustrated that people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. So I have to really maintain to stay in this place, which is why I need to do more self-care. The more I sit into this hour, the more that becomes clear to me that will help me to stay the course, because this is not a sprint. This feels a little bit more like a marathon. I have to look at it that way. And this is, you can always put in a lot for a short, if you think it's a short period of time, or I can at least. That's easy. And that's why on a given day or week, we have moments where we fluctuate, and that's going to happen during this too. This is not going to be all good or all bad. There's going to be times where we're going to struggle. But for the most part, I have to say, I've been really impressed with how my family has stepped up to the plate. We really have sheltered the kids from a lot of this, and they are having a good time. They are, for the most part, things have been going very well. It's just me feeling stuff within me that I have to, that I feel like is more of the problem. On the outside, I think the kids they are not feeling it as much, which is pretty typical of how things usually are.
The children are quite resilient.
Yeah.
But I love how you brought that this is not a sprint, it's more like a marathon. And I also love that you acknowledge the fact that, gee, maybe we bring on so much at the beginning, and then it feels like, oh my goodness, how could I maintain this? And I think that a lot of us are going to be looking at that and facing that. And I think it's a lot like when, based on my early childhood teaching, a lot like the beginning of a school year, when the little ones first come in, the first day or two, everything is just so, and it's so quiet, and everybody is really kind of cautious and doing things the way they're supposed to. And then once everybody gets comfortable, that's when we see the real deal of what we're going to be dealing with. So I think this week, and I agree, going into a third week, we are starting to be like, oh, okay, so now we've been in the, I'll call it the shock and awe of what had happened. and the shock and awe put us into a place like of, okay, we'll survive this. We scurried, we did a lot, and now we're hitting the ground. We're saying, okay, this is what it's going to be for a while. How do I maintain a feeling of peace within myself? And you answered the question that I was going to ask, because you said more self-care is the key. And so this work, when I ask parents to do things like this and to think about, well, when things are difficult, what space am I in and what could I do to change it? That's the key. What could I do to change it? You seem to have a very clear focus that there has to be some more self-care built in order to continue to be the captain of the ship, or the person in the driver's seat, right? Because when we start to get worn out and that gnawing happens, we start to say, just okay, just do what you want for now. And we really, I know that we have to be gentle with ourselves and know there are going to be times, of course, that we fall off course. At the same time, we have to keep our eye on it to make sure that we are able to get right back into the driver's seat as quickly as we can in the most peaceful way. So thanks for bringing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Mara, you had a
I did. I was, you know, I was thinking similarly along the lines of, you know, we really pulled it together for the weekday routine, for that Monday through Friday piece of it, and just really put a lot of our collective family energy into that. And then the weekend came, and suddenly we had this more unstructured time. We still had our meal times, and we still had some of the regular things, but you know, in our previous everyday rhythms, we were not the ones setting and maintaining and upholding the weekday schedule. So our weekends, we had the energy to put into that, our parenting energy into, okay, this is what we're going to do on Saturday. We're going to, you know, we'll go to the playground, we'll go take a walk, we'll have a family game night or family movie night, or you're going to this person's house, and we would schedule it. And this weekend, it was the first time where we felt really untethered as a family. It was kind of like we all let out this kind of collective sigh that we'd gotten through that whole Monday through Friday routine. And then we're a little bit out of sorts. And the next piece of it for David and I was to say, okay, now we need to think about what our weekend rhythm is going to be. And that it's, you know, we don't want it to, just because we're home, blend into Monday through Friday so that it's all one long stretch. We still want to have that, those days of rest and, that cap to the end of our week. But how's that going to look? Because it's going to have to look different than what it is now, what it was before, at least for a while. And I think that, when things are going really well, I feel unrushed. I feel really able to engage in creative acts, and not just, I don't mean just artistic for my own self, but, I feel like that's when I can plan the meals well. And that's when I'm able to give more into the space and creatively clean a space or creatively do something for myself and for my family. And when things are out of sorts and when things are difficult, that's when I find that it's the opposite of being able to be creative. I just feel stuck. I get kind of in a mode of procrastinating, and, I start to feel like I'm reacting to different situations rather than acting upon something. So, I think for me and for our family in general, the key for us has been to slow down as the antidote to that feeling of when things are out of sorts. It's usually because we're rushing or overbooked, even though we tend to keep ourselves pretty low booked in general. But I think for us, whenever we feel that way as a group, it usually means that we need to scale back on something in order to get back to our center.
Yes. So Mara, do you feel that you can see a doable change that you could make for the weekend, so you don't feel so I guess you use the word untethered. Um, do you see a solution?
I would say that for us, it's probably going to involve our own backyard a lot more, in terms of being able to shift out of the house, but not necessarily out onto the playgrounds where we live. All week long, David and Felix have been able to go out very easily and play basketball and have no one else around. I'm not quite sure why, but then on the weekends, it's the outside world right now is a little more crowded. So we've missed some of those outside opportunities. And I think that's part of it, that, as you said, like going, just to the end of your street and knocking around a soccer ball there rather than doing some of the bigger activities. But I think for us, it involves, changing our space a little bit, not staying inside, but finding other ways to have a rhythm, and our dog, taking care of our dog a little more. That maybe those are the days we do the much longer walks, and where we, prepare some meals together as a whole group to add something different, but something that's an anchor for the day.
Right. Well, that sounds wonderful. Using our own backyards, or whatever space you have right around your own home is absolutely sounding like the way to go. Especially because, it's interesting that the parks, sometimes now there are more crowds than ever, when we're supposed to be social distancing. We do see that happening. So to get creative with movement is a real key, because not only for us, but our children, they are movers because they're Waldorf children, and their bodies are going to go through a lot of changes because of the lack of movement. It is just inevitable. So we do have to pay attention to that, and think creatively with ways to get them moving. And that might also bring us, of course, on the weekends, we had a schedule that the children would go out 3 times a day on the weekend. And of course that cannot happen because they're doing their online studies during the day, during the week. But because they're not even moving their bodies to move to another class, or of course, at Waldorf, they're moving around a lot, we have to work even harder to have them move their bodies. And so building that more and more into the schedule, using our home base is very important. We ended up digging through the garage and getting out old nets that we hadn't used in a really long time, and setting them up on the grass, and making this space inviting for movement even more. So it might take some more creativity and thought, especially around the weekends that do feel so wide open, to encourage this movement, because what's going to happen is people are going to get used to this kind of sinking in, even the children. We don't want to train our brains to get used to that, because even sitting at a Zoom session, afterward, hopefully we get up and we stretch and we move around, because the sitting posture doesn't bring health. We know that. So thank you for bringing that, and everything that you brought today. It has been rich and inspirational as always. And I think we could close today with remembering that we're going to look at ourselves as parents when we start going into fear-based places, to notice where you go as a parent. So it might, I'm hoping, bring some inspiration that when we go into maybe not even a fear-based place, but a frustrated place of, oh gosh, again, or this feels like, you know, my walls are closing in, that we can see that and see if we could start to match, wow, that feeling inside of me, that feeling of frustration really brings out that permissive parent. And we'll use that as something that's, you know, how Kim John Payne says we get pinged, that we go, the light bulb goes on. Oh, I'm sinking into that space. It's matching the permissive parenting, and it's not serving anything. May that be something that serves my will, so that my will comes back, and that I can say, you know what, I could do this. 5 more minutes, I can do this. I can pull myself together, and then yes, I'm going to do something to take care of myself. But paying attention to that over the next couple of days, and we'll get together again and talk about any results we noticed, and if it was helpful in turning our minds toward peace and a feeling of security and happiness in our parenting and home life. So let's take a nice full breath, and we'll move into our verse, and to remember that even in the most chaotic of times, or times where fear is thick, we can always turn inward. It's a gift of being human, and find the quiet and the peace that is our birthright. In the words of Rudolf Steiner, quiet I bear within me, I bear within myself, forces to make me strong. Now I will be imbued with their glowing warmth. Now I will fill myself with my own will's resolve. And I will feel the quiet pouring through all my being, when by my steadfast striving, I become strong, to find within myself the source of strength, the strength of inner calm. Nice full breath in. And as we exhale, let go of any kind of tension. We see ourselves moving into the day with clarity and peace. And I thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Mara.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Have a good day.
Yep, be well.